All right, my friends. Time for another creativity bootcamp lesson 3, take 2, because as most of you are painfully aware, last night was a crash and burn on YouTube Live. You know, there's all these like little connecting pieces that all have to be working perfectly for this streaming broadcast to go off seamlessly. And if one of those, it's like the Christmas lights, if one light goes out, they all go out. One connection is gone, nothing is happening. And our ducks in a row tonight. And I am thankful to have you here. I'm going to go ahead and presentation. And first I want to talk about reviewing homework from last week. So our homework from last week was to come up with 50 bad ideas. And I'm kind of hoping that, well, I will show you my ideas page. I unfortunately did not get 50, so I feel because I actually came with really rough. They look like maybe a kid did them, but honestly, I just need enough information to know what it means. And if I can decipher it, that's all I need. Able to work out some love to know if anyone wants to share if they did their homework, if they came up with 50 bad ideas, and I hope it was a good experience. Becca, thank you. I say blessings on your head to people that are here tonight, double blessings, double creativity are blessings because you put up with all the crap that happened yesterday. All right. So tonight we are going to be talking about the creativity crushers. And yes, I love that alliteration. And I learned about the creativity crushers when I was a college student. Actually, not an art class, but in a C.S. Lewis class, believe it or not, in a literature class. And a professor said, do you know what the 3 things are that kill creativity? And he was like, stress, fear, fatigue. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm all 3 of those every single day. And I'm an art student. I'm supposed to create. What am I going to do? And actually, I added one more to that, and I added distraction because, let's be honest, in our day and age, I feel like distraction wasn't as much of a creativity killer when I was in college, some like 18 years ago, but it is definitely a full creativity crusher nowadays. So we're going to talk about that. Also, this painting is called Discouragement. I painted it when I was in college. And it just kind of gives you an idea of when I was feeling fear, fatigue, and stress. I painted on it. All right. So we're going to get started with a list. We're going to start with fear, and then we're going to work fear, fatigue, and distraction. We're going to discuss each of those briefly, and then I'm going to give you some solutions that I have discovered in my 17 years of working as a creative professional that hopefully will add some benefit to you. I really do. I've talked about this book before, but I'm going to quote from this a couple times again tonight. And Liz Gilbert gives us just kind of like a nice picture of fears that we feel in being a creative individual. And this image on the left is quite terrifying. It was a self-portrait, scary self-digital portrait that I did in college. And she says, "You're afraid you have no talent. You're afraid you'll be rejected or criticized or ridiculed or misunderstood or worst of all, ignored. You're afraid there's no market for your creativity and therefore somebody else already did it better. You're afraid everybody else. You're afraid somebody will steal your ideas, so it's safer to keep them hidden forever in the dark. You're afraid you won't be taken seriously. You're afraid your work isn't politically, emotionally, artistically important enough to change anyone's life. You're afraid your dreams are embarrassing. You're afraid of what your peers and coworkers will say if you express your personal truth aloud. You're afraid you're too old to start. You're afraid you're too ever gone well in your life, so why bother? Have all day here, so I'm not going to keep listing fears. It's a bottomless pit anyhow, and a depressing one." So yeah, like I think anybody, whether you're a creative individual or not, is very well acquainted with fear. And I've thought a lot about this and how I deal with fear. And I didn't really intend for this class to get religious, but as I was thinking about how I deal with fear, I really couldn't think of a way to express how I deal with it to you without including my faith. Because in my opinion, fear and faith are polar opposites. And the way you get rid of fear is by having a little bit of faith. And if you think about it, like we talked, I think in the first class about God as the ultimate creator, and that if you want to be a creative person, one thing that I suggest is doing things that would bring you closer to him. And that includes like meditation, prayer, writing in your journal. And so if you think about that as God is the ultimate creative person, and doing things that bring us closer to him help us become more creative, the antithesis of that is that I believe the adversary, the great evil that opposes God, is the father of chaos, disorder, destruction. And so these two opposites work together. Of course, fear will come whenever we want to do something cool or important or creative, because I really do believe that there is an adversary out there that wants to keep us from progressing and from doing anything good. And this kind of goes in line with a question that I received online last week, and she asked me if I would think about covering the answer to this question in tonight's lesson. And that question had to do with self-confidence. She was like, you seem to have so much self-confidence. Like, where does that come from? And how do you get that? I didn't start out with a lot of art talent. And I mean, those of you that know me well know that I hardly ever give a speaking assignment without bringing up my humble beginnings art journal from high school. I discovered art. Oh yeah, I actually have a slide for this. I discovered art as a senior in high school, and there's a couple of my really stellar pieces from my art journal. And it's hard for me to see, like, how do you have self-confidence? I don't, honestly. But I think I could do this. Like, I have no ability. I almost quit, actually. In fact, I was like, I left the art student orientation and was walking to my apartment in tears, thinking like, I got to change my major, when I had this impression come over me, and it was, Jenedy, you can be an artist. And I was surprised by it, because I knew what Jenedy was capable of, and I just didn't see how I would do it. And so I kind of asked this question in return to that impression. And I said, like, how could I possibly do this? And I felt this feeling like God would help me do it. And I had spent the past like 8 years trying to come to know God through this daily morning practice of seeking him. And so when he told me he could help me, like, I believed him. I just knew I had like a ton of work to do. And so I went to school really early and just put in a ton of work. And honestly, I've just been putting in a ton of work. I mean, I talked about this a little bit in the first class, how I feel like I have this divine partnership. Like, I create, inviting God into the space to create with me. And that's how we make cool stuff. And so, you know, this is where my confidence comes from. I believe in God, and I believe that he can do big things. And I know that when I partner with him, we can do big things together. And this is a painting that I did right out of college. My husband and I graduated and moved to Southern California, and I did this little painting of a self-portrait, reaching for this star, because honestly, I've felt like I've been reaching for that star for a very long time. Still reaching. So I feel like it would be a lie for me to tell you that, you know, just believe in yourself. No, I think it's better to believe in a higher power. In fact, I think I skipped this slide. Maybe I just was thinking about this in writing this presentation. Maybe I could say you need to have faith in yourself, but honestly, faith in myself hasn't ever taken me as far as having faith in him. And this is a painting called Beyond the Ceiling that I did 13 years ago. But I think it's a self-portrait that kind of illustrates the same thing as Bound to the Star. I did it a little bit better. So that's kind of like, that's where my confidence comes from. And I think it's easier to believe in a bigger picture, to believe in a higher power. And if you believe in a higher power, then it's easier for you to believe in doing bigger things, because it's not just you. It's kind of like last week when we talked about Liz Gilbert and the daemon, and that, like, maybe this was the first week. You can't take any real credit for what you do, because there's going to be a genius there to help you, right? And at the same time, you can't feel too depressed if you fail, because your genius didn't show up. So same thing, think big. And it's easier to think big if you believe in a higher power to help you get there. Okay. Now, I want to go back a little bit to fear and how fear comes in and tries to stop us. And I'm going to recommend another fantastic book to you, which is The Screw Tape Letters. If you guys have never read this, it's fantastic. But in it, C.S. Lewis says, readers are advised to remember the devil is a liar. And it's such a simple statement, but a powerful one. And then you'll see give more power to our fears than our inspiration. I mean, about that, like you'll get like an idea or a thought of something that you should do, and then for some reason, fear seems to come along with it. They almost travel in pairs, like inspiration and fear. And it's like as soon as the inspiration comes, fear immediately steps in. It's like, no, you shouldn't do that. No, that's scary. People think you're dumb. You're not capable. Like so many times in my life, I've received inspiration and with it fear. And it's like easier for me to listen to the fear than the inspiration. And that's why I like this quote by Lewis, like readers are advised to remember that the devil is a liar. Like, don't listen to that. Don't listen to the thing that you know in your heart is the better choice. Listen to the inspiration and don't give in to the liar, because he's going to want to stop you. I really do believe that there is an adversary that wants to stop you from progressing and accomplishing your goals. Now, in regards to this, Liz Gilbert, before we get there, I wanted to share one more painting. I think I shared this with you one of the other times, but just to remember that like God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. Okay. Now, this is a quote. I know it's I had to read the whole thing because it's so good. And this comes right from Liz Gilbert's book, Big Magic. And this is how she talks about how I said that there's that pairing of creativity and fear. Katie and I are about to go on a road trip together. I understand you'll be joining us. Oh, speaking to fear, because you always do. I do acknowledge that you believe you have an important job to do in my life and that you take your job seriously, doing your job if you must. But I will also be doing my job on this road trip, which is to work hard and stay focused. And creativity will be doing its job, which is to remain stimulating and inspiring. There's plenty of room in this view, and I will never exclude you from our activities, but still, will never be followed. You're allowed to have a seat. You're allowed to have a voice. You are not allowed to have a vote. You are not allowed to touch the road maps. You are not allowed to suggest detours. You're not allowed to fiddle with the temperature, dude. You're not even allowed to touch the radio. But above all else, my dear old familiar friend, you are absolutely drive. Tip, don't let fear drive. And honestly, this is how I approach so many things in my life. Like, it was 4 years ago when I felt a bit of inspiration, an idea, a creative whisper, if you will, from heaven. And it was, you should apply for American Ninja Warrior. And at this time in my life, I had never been in a ninja gym. It was like the furthest thing from my mind. But as soon as that inspiration came, what came with it? Fear immediately. I'm not capable. I can't do that. There's no way. I've watched that show. Crazy people do that. I don't have the time to train. And I just immediately, it was like, as soon as the inspiration came, a whole list of like why I shouldn't do it or why I can't do it just like jumped on board. And so I said no. But thankfully, I feel like those whisperings are persistent and they'll come back a couple of times. And I eventually prayed about it and felt like it was something that I should move forward with. And so once I made that decision, right, and here again, I'm like bringing God into the picture. Like, I don't have confidence in myself. I have confidence in him. If he tells me that I can do it, then I believe him. So when he said move forward, I did. And then it's not like fear went away. I mean, fear was definitely still in the car on the road trip. I just was choosing not to listen or to let fear drive. And I think that's just like such a beautiful pattern for our lives. Like, follow the inspiration and don't let fear drive. Okay. So now we're going to move on to the second creativity crusher, which is fatigue. And I'm going to share with you one of my favorite pieces from college. It's very different from my current style. And in fact, it's a style that I kind of would like to return to. We'll see. So there's a lot of things to say in regards to this picture. First, we're going to start with this quote from an artist, Turner, and he says, "The phenomenon attributed as pattern recognition dictates that REM sleep is beneficial to the creative process. A study has shown that connect unrelated ideas, creative problem solving, connecting unrelated ideas. Remember our first class, and then the second class where we're recombining the inputs. We need sleep to do that. Like that part of our brain needs that to function. And so sleep is actually a really important part of the creative process. And those out there that love to sleep are like, I second this. I support this. Okay, so this image is called Rise and Shine. And it's very surrealistic. But it was inspired by an experience that I had when I was in college. So I've told you many times that I got up really early in the morning to work, but I was also a college student. And let's be honest, like my roommates did not go to bed at 8:30 or 9 like I wanted to. And so sometimes it was hard to sleep, and sometimes I had projects. And raise your hand if you have pulled an all-nighter before. Okay, like I was pushing my boundaries because I was young and stupid. And I remember one night I woke up really early, like 3, and I hadn't slept. I think I had slept like 5 hours or something. And I remember just kind of like, like stumbling into the bathroom. And then like I flipped on the light, and I don't know if it was like a hallucination or like like my brain freaking out because of the lack of sleep, that it was me pushing too far, or if it was actually like a vision from God, like a warning. I don't know. But all I know is I flipped on the light, and all of a sudden I saw the scariest version of myself. I had like Gollum, like stringy dark hair, like hanging down. And my eyes were bloodshot. I had big bags under my eyes. My face was skeletal. And then I blinked, and that image went away, and it was my face again in the mirror. But it freaked me out. It was a trip. And I felt this warning inside me when I saw that. And it was like, Jenedy, you need to sleep. This is the voice of reason and wisdom telling you while you're young, it's important for you to sleep. And so that's inspired this image of this skeletal girl. She's holding on to the end of her alarm clock. And if you can literally close, the alarm says 3:07 a.m. And the stairs are a symbol of like the descent from this, like the sleep world to a world of wakefulness. I don't know. I was going surreal. Okay. But this is when I learned that, you know what? It actually takes faith to sleep sometimes. So it's funny because, I had to pull faith in talking about how I conquer. And honestly, when it comes to fatigue or when it comes to sleep, I have to pull faith in there too, because sometimes it takes faith to sleep. And I learned this in college because I would have a project or an assignment, and I'd be tempted to pull an all-nighter and be like, I got to stay up all night. I got to do this. But after that experience, I learned a higher way, which was put all the work in that I could while it was day. And then, say a prayer and say, God, like I got to bet that he would be there, and that we would, that it would work out, that I would be able to accomplish whatever I needed to at the time I had in the morning. And I've learned since that keep that in mind, because I think that that's something that maybe most people don't think about. And I have found that for me personally, like I need 7 hours of sleep to function. Like I start getting heart palpitations or like extreme anxiety if I start sleeping less than that. So if I start to feel like heart tremors, or I'm feeling extremely anxious, my husband will be like, Jenedy, how much did you sleep last night? You need to go to bed. We need to restart tomorrow. Okay. Now, in regards to sleep and rest, sometimes we need to rest our. And so this is from the book, this one, How to Get Ideas by Jack Foster. Okay. So these are some examples he gave of resting an idea. And I think we all know this actually happened to me last night, you guys. But like when you're trying to think of a name and you're like sending all of the energy to your brain to go through the filing cabinet to like find the name, and then you can't find it. and then you like rest it for a minute, and then it's like it comes back like once you let it go. So like this has happened to me before with ideas. Sometimes you're trying to get an idea and you force it and you force it and you force it, and then like you let it go, and like you're like, so last night I couldn't figure out why this whole setup wasn't working, and I was racking my brain, especially those like 15 minutes before we were supposed to start the live. I was like, what could it be? What could it be? I'm like checking everything, trying to figure it out. And so I was trying to force the idea, right? And then I let it go, and we did it. Like I walked in the door, and it just hit me like that. Like, this is what you missed. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I came back this morning and I did it, and it worked. And I was like, oh, that was it. So it's so funny because I actually experienced this very thing that I was going to teach you guys about. That sometimes you have to trust an idea. So here we go. Albert Einstein said his best ideas came to him while he was shaving. Grant Wood, the painter of American Gothic, you know, that painting where the guy's holding the pitchfork. All the really good ideas I have ever had came to me while I was milking a cow. And then Henri I don't know how to speak French, guys. Poincaré on holiday. Step by step, rest your bodies, and then also sometimes you need to rest your ideas. Okay, so we're going to now move on to distraction. Oh, wait, not yet. We're going to save distraction for the end. First, we're going to talk about stress because we talked about fear, fatigue, and stress is next. Okay, I like this quote. Stress. This actually makes us tunnel visioned. That is, our brain automatically focuses only on the problem at hand. This reduces our ability to see things from creatively, right? Like it's hard for you to make those connections that you got to make, just haven't had enough sleep, and then also stress, which is probably one of the reasons why I couldn't figure out what I needed to do to fix my YouTube live last night, is because I was stressed. So there you go, case in point. So what do I do when I'm stressed, or how do I deal with stress in my daily life? Because I will just tell you right now, like I have so many things that I'm juggling on a daily basis. Like I coach at a ninja gym. I'm a mom. I have to take my kids to all of their extracurricular activities. I have an online store. I teach online, patreon.com. I teach in person. I sell personal art. Like it's just like there's a lot, right? And so one thing that I do to try to maintain some kind of order in my life is I don't use my digital calendar as much as I use a written calendar. I know you're not surprised because Jenedy's like the writing queen. Like she loves to have a journal, right? But no, seriously, there's this thing called digital offloading. Have you heard of this? Like if you put something in your phone, your brain says, you don't have to remember that anymore. It's like your brain sees your phone as an external hard drive. Like literally, like if you take a picture of something, your brain will be like, I don't have to remember it. It's stored on the hard drive. And so what I do, I mean, I still put things in my phone, but then like on Monday morning, I'll sit down and I will like take my written calendar and my phone, and I'll put everything in my phone on my written calendar and just make sure that I'm prepared. And I like to do that at the start of the morning too, just kind of review my day. And that helps me not be so stressed out because I realize there's a plan and everything is going to roll according to plan most of the time, maybe. At least it helps for me. Like I love to do yoga. I think like running is kind of a meditation for me. In fact, I did this painting in 2006 called Morning Meditation. It's kind of fun to go back and look at these old paintings. But to me, this looks like an underpainting for a painting I would do now. And I used to live in this small town, Colorado, that had all these fields surrounding our home. And I would go running, and it was like this meditative thing. Like I could think about my life and think about things that I wanted to change and goals. And sometimes I would just sit in the field, just sit there. And it was like such a beautiful opportunity to just kind of like to ponder and think. So highly recommend finding whatever you can do to like meditate, or, you know, find a way to relieve that stress so you can be more creative. All right. Now we're going to talk about distraction. I love this quote from Screwtape Letters. It is funny how mortals always picture us as putting things into their minds. In reality, our best work is done by keeping things out. Isn't that so profound? Like, we live in a world of distraction. It is like so hard. And Liz Gilbert even talks about this in Big Magic. She said, ideas spend eternity swirling around us, searching for available and willing human partners. When an idea thinks it has found somebody, say you might be able to bring it into the world, and so the idea will pay you a visit. It will try to get your attention. Mostly you will not notice. This is likely because you're consumed by your own dramas, anxieties, distractions, insecurities, and duties that you aren't receptive to inspiration. So I would call all of those things she just said fear, stress, and fatigue. Or you might miss the signal because you're watching TV or shopping or brooding over how angry you are at somebody or pondering your failures and mistakes or just generally really busy. The idea will try to wave you down, perhaps for a few moments, perhaps for a few months, perhaps even for a few years. But when it finally realizes that you're oblivious to its message, it will move on to somebody else. And there we have distractions. So in that one quote, she's like, you might not be getting ideas because stress, fear, fatigue, or distraction, all the things that we covered tonight. So how do you fight distraction? One thing that I have found is that if I want to be focused, I have to have my phone not close to my body. Like seriously, the other day, I got up early to write in my journal, and I kid you not, there was like 4 times that I was like, I wonder what the weather is going to be today. Reach for my phone, and I'm like, no, stop it, I'm writing. It was like the smarter part of myself had to keep telling the distracted part of myself to come back and focus. Like, I wonder what my kids are having for lunch today. Don't touch it. Because if you see what your kids are having, then you might be tempted to check your phone, then you might be tempted to check your DMs, and then before you know, you spend an hour on social media, and it's your time for writing is over. So I recommend that. But I also recommend taking an even bigger break, if possible, from technology. And first, I'm going to share this quote from The Artist's Way. The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And she says, we have a daily quota of media we swallow up. Like greasy food, it clogs our system, too much of it, and we feel, yes, fried. Without distractions, we are once again thrust into the sensory world. With no newspaper to shield us, train becomes a view gallery. With no novel to sink to and no television to numb us out, and even becomes a vast savannah in which furniture and other assumptions get rearranged. And this is a painting that I did called Our Nirvana back before the use of smartphones. This was this past December. I chose to do a media fast with my family. We chose to do together. It was kind of like after dinner, instead of like, I realized that like it was default to like go to your laptop, go to your iPad, my kids go to a Nintendo Switch or a TV show. And we were all on this screen and I hated it. And so I said, hey guys, what if we just fast and there'll be a prize if we make it. And every night after dinner, instead of doing all of those things, let's turn them all off to accomplish as a family. And like play hide and go seek in the dark, or like the Great British Bake Off Live, or like do a puzzle or color something, or go to a museum or go to a show, or like there's a whole world of things out there that you could do that are all creative inputs. Not that your devices don't offer inputs. I'm just saying like there's a whole lot there beyond the screen. I find like it's so much easier to make. Here's your homework for this week. I'm so excited about this. We are going to go at the minute because we're working on that fatigue. We are also going to enjoy a media fast after dinner for the whole week and see what you do. You might create something. And then I want to do something that scares you and write about it and see what happens. Isn't that a fantastic homework? I'm so excited about it. I'm excited to hear how it works for you guys. And I hope you enjoyed the class tonight. And I tried really hard. Oh, I did. I kept it to 30 minutes. Woohoo! If you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. I do think someone is trying to deliver prints to my studio door. So I'm gonna go open that door really quick, and I'll be right back. If you have a question, hold it. Okay. Hopefully my husband handled that situation. Anybody got any questions? I will say that I did have a question from last week that was like written to me, like in an email. And her question was, oh yeah, how do you make that transition from being a hobby artist to a professional artist? And how do you get over the vulnerability of sharing your work? And I just told her that, you know what? When you go to school to be an artist, you just always intend to make money with your art. And so I feel like I never had to make that shift for me, because I guess that shift happened, I graduated college and then I had to start a career. But I had a lot of students that go through this. And of course, it's vulnerable for me to share my art, but it's like fear being in the car with you, and fear is not allowed to drive. I feel like those fears that say like, oh, what are they going to think when they see that? What if nobody understands what you're trying to say? Which can be very true for me. I just choose not to let fear drive. So I feel all those things. I feel the vulnerability. I just move forward without it, because I know by sharing my work is the only way that I'm going to be able to really accomplish my goals of connect with others through my art. But I also have had a lot of students that have, started out just making it for fun, and then they wanted to turn it into more of a career. And I always recommend setting dates for shows in your calendar, like make a year calendar. And it's like, as an athlete, as a runner, you choose races that you're going to train for, or for me, like ninja competitions I'm going to train for. And it's cool because then it gives you something to work towards. And I think it's that's one of the best things you can do as a hobby artist trying to become a more professional artist, is pick shows that you want to be in. They don't have to be big. It doesn't have to be like a museum. It could be like the state fair. That counts as a show. Or here in my little town in Utah, we have a day where we celebrate the city, the city days, and they have an art show. Fantastic. Or, just if you wanted to, you could create your own little body of work and do your own show at a cafe or your house. There's a lot of options, but just having those things to work towards, I think, one, they motivate you to do the work, just like people who sign up for races, it motivates them to get up every day and run. And then it also, by signing up, you commit to that event. So it helps you work past the vulnerability, because, hey, I signed up, I'm going to show up, I'm committed. So fear, you can't drive. Get out of here. We're going to go do something cool. So I hope that helps you. I think that was Laura. Laura Hardy had that question. But if everyone else is good to go, then I'm going to repeat your homework one more time. And then I will see you next Tuesday, not Wednesday. And hopefully I've got all my ducks in a row. So go to bed 30 minutes early tonight. Go without media every night after dinner until I see you next time. Do something scary and run with it. Okay? I'm excited for this challenge too. Bless you souls for showing up tonight. Honestly, I had to do this anyways because I wanted to have it as part of the series on my YouTube channel, and it's so much better just knowing at least one person is out there listening to you. So this is a blessing to you, and good luck in all your creative pursuits, and I'll catch you next week.